Hi, this is Rich Harrington of Red Pixel, and I am here today to give you my definitive cropping tutorial. Now, before you click stop, let me say, you might think you know how to crop, but there's some pretty cool things hidden inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to be showing you techniques that come from my book, Understanding Adobe Photoshop from Peach Pit Press. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, you can use any images you want here, but I'm going to give you some basics that really take the crop tool a lot further than most people use it. Let's start this way. I'll press C for crop, and notice up here in the options bar, we have the ability to enter a target width and a height. So I can actually type in a specific size. In this case, I could say, oh, I'd like to make this an actual square image. So let's go 5 IN for inches by 5 IN. And we can assign a print resolution. In this case, I'll use 300 pixels per inch. Now, as I crop here, you'll notice that the crop tool is constrained to a perfect square. And the shielded area indicates what's going to be cropped out. So that works great. And we can go ahead and sort of drag here and position this how we want. When we're satisfied, I can hit the return key, and the crop is actually applied. Now, notice here that the image has actually been resized as well. Not only have we cropped, but we changed the resolution. If you want to check what the image is set to, you can Option or Alt click at the bottom of the screen, and you will see the resolution and the size. In this case, it says it's a 5 by 5 inch print at 300 pixels per inch. Pretty straightforward, but a cool way to target that. Now, that's not the end. We've got a lot more to show you with cropping. So let's just close this image and go on to the next. There we go. And we're going to come here to this next image with the butterfly. Now, before I crop, I'm going to take advantage of a little trick, and that is to double click and actually float this layer. I always believe in naming my layers, so we'll call that butterfly and hit return. Now, I'm going to select the crop tool, and let's set up a target size we want. Let's say we had a 7 inch by 5 inch print. And then we decided in looking at that, you know what? I actually want a 5 by 7. Well, if you click the little arrows here, those two values swap places. We can now go ahead and crop. There we go. And frame this up how we want for the new print. Drag that in. That looks good. And before I hit return, I'm going to go up here to the options bar and choose an important option called hide. If I choose hide and press return, it goes ahead and it crops the image, but it hid those pixels, not deleted them. What that means is that you can actually now nudge this layer using the move tool or drag and reposition it, because all of those cropped pixels are still actually in there, and that lets you decide what portion of the image you want to use. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. Plus, if you need to, you can actually go ahead and say image reveal all and uncrop the image in the future, even after closing and saving the document. So that's that benefit of choosing hide, but you must float the layer first. It doesn't work if it's a locked background layer. So double click and give it a name. Now let's go on to another example here. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and crop this image non-destructively as a smart object. Now let's do this in a different way. I'm going to choose File, New, and I'm going to pick a document preset that I want to use for a specific purpose. Let's say, for example, we were going to be using this on a high definition television at 1920 by 1080. So I can go ahead and pick that preset, it loads in, and I click OK. I now choose File, Place. And keep in mind, this isn't just for high def TVs. You can use any of the Photoshop document presets or make your own for that matter. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab that picture. And I select it and click Place. Now the image is automatically added to my canvas and it's scaled down to fit. I could hold down Shift and Option, and as I drag, it will scale equally in all directions. So we could scale that up and position it how we want, find the portion of the image that we want to actually use, and notice we are, of course, changing the aspect ratio. So I'm going to go a little bit for sort of the top of the roof there, and that looks pretty good. I'll press return, and that looks good. What I want you to notice, though, over here is that it is a smart object. So if I were to change my mind in the future, I could just press Command T for free transform. Let's zoom out a little here to see the handles. And I can actually scale that image up all the way up to its original resolution. And there is no loss in image quality because the smart object contains a full resolution copy of that original photo embedded inside. With that layer selected, if you said Layer, Smart Objects, Edit Contents, you'd actually see that inside that smart object is the full resolution photo with no loss. So what you've essentially done here by using the place command is you've added a virtual copy of the picture. It is embedding a full resolution copy into your Photoshop document. It makes for a bigger document, but it gives you much greater flexibility. Now, that's all cool stuff, and I got one more thing to show you with the crop tool that I want to point out, and that is a perspective crop. If you have an image that has distortion, such as this one here, we've got a little bit of keystoning due to the fact that we are very low to this particular photo. We can correct that with the crop tool. I'm going to go ahead and double click and make this a layer. We'll call it Church Window. Again, always use descriptive layers. Grab my crop tool, clear out the preset information up there, and just loosely crop around the object that you want, trying to get it so that the corners are where you're expecting and get it so you've got the object sort of squared up. Once you have that, you can choose Perspective Crop, which allows you to drag corners in and actually match up the edges a bit. And this works great for keystoning or any sort of distortion you might have in your image. And once you're satisfied with that, you can go ahead and press return, and you'll see that it has removed the distortion from the image and squares it up. Now, if you need to, and depending upon how you drag, you might find a need to do a little bit of free transform and stretch that image taller or shorter, but that's a piece of cake. You can always do that and change the canvas size. And there you have it, several ways of using the crop tool. In my experience, I find that people usually learn 1 or 2 ways to harness the tools, and then they move on, thinking that they've actually mastered Photoshop. But highly encourage you to keep reading the tutorials up here at TipSquirrel, and check out my book, Understanding Adobe Photoshop from Peach Pit Press, where you can go much deeper and learn these techniques. You'll also find our iPhone applications available in the iTunes Store under Understanding Photoshop, and you can pick up some tutorials there. Thanks again for checking this out. I hope you enjoyed learning how to master the crop tool.